Hello, it's Shelly from Shelly Sells Lemonade. I've been getting a lot of questions about supplies, so I was going to take you through the basics and then my opinion on some other things that are kind of nice to have, but you definitely don't need to have. So this, you're looking at literally all you need in order to embroider. You need a pair of scissors to cut your fabric and your floss. You need some floss. I like DMC. They make this 6-strand floss, which you can split into any number of strands. They also make some satin and some pearl and some other fancy stuff. A pencil or a pen to get your design on your fabric. A hoop. 6-inch is what I prefer. It's easy enough to hold in my hand. I typically don't work on a real small scale, so this is, I find, good. And then fabric. Now, a word about fabric. People always want to know what's the best fabric to stitch on. In my opinion, I like natural fibers, which means cotton, or here's a nice linen. The difference between cotton and linen, I think you can probably see. First of all, there's usually some texture to linen, and cotton is usually more smooth. You could probably find a textured cotton, but most of it, if you go into a store, you're going to see is very smooth. That's a matter of personal preference. They are both not very stretchy. That's my other rule. Don't use stretchy fabric because it's going to distort your pattern. So cotton or linen, this is what's called a tight weave. So it's really hard. It's not hard, but it is harder to poke a needle through it. It's a needle slide through a loose weave much easier. And that's a matter of personal preference. So if you like using all 6 strands and you like being able to stitch really quickly, you might want to use linen. If you're more like me and you like to use 2 or 3 strands, or you like more precision, or you like a tighter grid, you might want to use a tighter weave. And you can ask, if you're in a fabric store, you can ask about a loose weave and a tight weave, and they can usually help you. Or you can just feel it and you can look at it and you can put your hand underneath it and that kind of thing. So let's say you have your fabric, you have your floss, you have your hoop, and you have a variety pack of needles. Now you need to get started. So you're going to use your scissors to cut your fabric to fit into your hoop. This is my preferred method of getting a design on your fabric. I like to trace my pattern, and I usually trace it off the computer screen so that I can size it and move components around. Like maybe I want to move the flower closer, further away. The computer is super easy, but this also works very well. You just don't have as much flexibility. So anyway, so you're going to lay your fabric on your pattern and then choose which tracing tool you want. These are my favorites: a pencil, a pen, or a water-soluble marker. I like this Leonis brand better than what I find in the big box stores. These you get on Amazon. Actually, and I wasn't going to do that pattern. I was going to do this pattern because this, believe it or not, is a sampler where you can practice lots of different stitches. And I'm just going to show you some of them. So if you're going to trace your pattern, just hold it firm, and you can see through the fabric just enough to get the lines down for you. So how is this a sampler? Well, here you can do a back stitch or a stem stitch or a whipped back stitch. Here you can do a little fly stitch. And the reason, again, this water-soluble pen is so nice is because if I don't stick completely to what I've drawn here, it's not a big deal. Here you can do either lazy daisy or a satin stitch. You can practice with different types of leaf stitches. I've got a bunch of different leaf stitches on my YouTube tutorial, free website. You can do some French knots. You can practice your colonial knots. You can either couch these branches, or you can just do a straight stitch. Here's another lazy daisy. So I think you get the idea. I'm going to stop there. What's really nice though is that all of my patterns come with Embroidery Made Easy, which is a guide, which is now, I believe, this is version 1, so this is a slightly shorter version. I have a more extensive version now that comes with all my patterns, but it goes into detail with supplies, tips for getting started, transferring your pattern, and each of the stitches listed here, so that's good. Other supplies that you need, you can store your floss in a floss box, which you can get the plastic box and these plastic binders together as a set, and then you use a Sharpie to write which number it is so you can find your floss. It is handy to have a pair of snips. It is handy to have a variety pack of needles. They come in different sizes, so if you get a variety pack, you can try them out and see which one you like best. And that's about it. So get stitching, get yourself some fabric, get a pattern, get your pattern on your fabric, grab some floss, and you can use regular scissors or some snips. If you want to get fancy, you can use a water-soluble pen. And here's a secret. If you're going to be traveling and you're nervous about traveling with your embroidery snips, which they are always, they comply with TSA, you can bring along some dental floss, and you can use this little guy here to slice your DMC floss. So yeah, bonus tip. So that's it. So hope that's everything that you need to get started and answers your questions. If you have more questions, I'm always happy to answer them. Just go ahead and shoot me a DM or reach out to me on Instagram. Thanks.